begin. At this time, I'd ask Commander and MRCC member Mrcc to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody can please remain standing just for a moment of silence for our troops serving here and abroad. Thank you very much. And Emery, thank you for your service. Thanks to all the servicemen and women that make events like this possible. Good morning and welcome. It's David D'Arcangelo, Chairman of the Malden Republican City Committee, City Councilor at Large here in the City of Malden, and also candidate for Secretary of State on the Republican side. Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for coming. It's always a good day. This is, I think, our 6th annual, probably our 8th overall, but our 6th consecutive. And we have a very robust program for you this morning. Certainly want to thank everybody who's come from near and far, and we're going to give everybody an opportunity to speak. But I do want to pay special attention to our 2 speakers that have joined us here this morning, our National Committee woman, Chanel Prunier, and State Committee man, Rick Green. If we could, let's give them a Malden welcome. We're going to hear Lincoln's greatness from Chanel, and Rick is going to be giving us reflections on Reagan. So today is President's Day. We're so pleased to be with you, and here in Massachusetts, even though it's a blue state, and in Malden, one of the bluer cities, right? Malden is one of those cities where the Democrats actually outnumber the unenrolled, right? So it's one of the, I think there's only 14 communities where that's the case. So I think we only have about, most places you can count on 11 or 12% of the voters to be Republican. Here in Malden, I think it's at about 5.5%. So it's an uphill battle, but it's great to see that we still have the Republican Party going strong here, and even the bluest of the bluest cities and the bluest of the bluest states. So that's very encouraging. And 2014 to me is a very encouraging year. The fact that we can all come together here and unite for whatever candidates end up getting our nomination. You've already seen this morning, we're fully behind and supportive of Monica and all her efforts, and really all the candidates here to make sure we are doing what we need to do to support you, whether it's put you on the ballot, write a check, make a donation, hold a sign, whatever the case may be it takes to run a successful campaign. We need to get behind all of our Republican candidates and really try to restore 2-party government back on Beacon Hill. That's one of the reasons why I've come forward is running for Secretary of State. So I'll be calling on all you. I've already called on some of you already, and throughout this campaign we'll be calling on you more. And but really, we don't have to be running away from any of our principles. We can proudly stand up, right? The Massachusetts Republican Party and here the Malden Party and really all of you epitomize all of the ideals set forward in the Republican Party platform, right? Whether it's fiscal conservatism, whether it's the right to life, whether it's having self-reliance rather than these social welfare programs that the government want to get you hooked on, right? They're all in the Constitution. And if we just stick to this, we'll all be better off, right? Everybody knows, I think may have heard it said years before, but the United States Constitution is actually modeled after the Constitution of Massachusetts. And the Massachusetts State Constitution is the oldest currently effective constitution in the world, right? So I really believe in the Constitution, right? We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, ensure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. We ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. And it represents everybody. And if we can just stick to the values in here, I mean, my campaign manager, Scott Ciccone over here, can tell you we've done plenty of senior suppers, and we've given these out to all the seniors across Malden. And we asked them what's in it. And you'd be surprised how few of them know. And I think it's part of our duty and part of our obligation as Republicans is to remind people what's in it and to remind them that the closer we stick to this, the better off we are as a city, a state, a country. right? So I guess that's my pitch this morning to you as a starting point for this Lincoln and Reagan breakfast. And again, as I said, thank you very much. As I said, I think this is our 6th annual, but 8th overall. And we've had some great speakers over the years. We've had Charlie Baker 4 years ago. We've had Jeff. We've had Brad here. We've had so many great speakers. And this morning is no exception. So I do want to welcome our first speaker, Chanel Prunier. Chanel is our National Committee woman, and she's going to be talking about Lincoln. Welcome, Chanel.
Thank you to the Malden City Committee for inviting me to speak today. Thank you to the city councilors for hosting, and thank you, David, for taking the plunge and running for Secretary of State. We really. I want to share with you 2 quotes from President Lincoln, which I think are particularly appropriate for our Republican Party right now at this point in time. And so, first one, our intention is to organize the whole state so that every Whig can be brought to the polls in the coming presidential contest. The following is the plan of organization and the duties required of each committee. To divide their county into small districts, to appoint in each a subcommittee, whose duty it shall be to make a perfect list of all the voters in their respective districts, and to ascertain with certainty for whom they will vote. If they meet men who are doubtful as to the vote, and as to who they will support, such voters should be designated in separate lines with the name of the man they will probably support. It will be the duty of said committee to keep a constant watch on the doubtful voters, and from time to time have them spoken to by those whom they have the most confidence, and also to place in their hand documents that will enlighten and influence them. It will also be their duty to report to you at least once a month the progress they are making, and on election day, see that every Whig is brought to the polls. So, President Lincoln, over 100 years ago obviously, has just described a voter ID and a get-out-the-vote program. The mechanics of winning an election haven't really changed. Certainly the technology has improved, the methodology has improved, but basically you identify your voters, you persuade the swing voters, and you turn out your voters on election day. And our party in the recent years has a history of not doing this as well as we should. Our chairman, Kirsten Hughes, and I will both often use the same line in our speeches that it's not the message or our candidates when we aren't successful on election day. We have great candidates, we have the correct message, we appeal to the voters of Massachusetts. When we fail, it's on the ground, and we get simply out-organized by our Democratic opponents. So I'm glad to see our party taking steps to pull us in the right direction, to create a coordinated campaign that's focused on all levels of the ticket, not just the governor's race. I know David is going to be one of a big part of that. And I'm glad to see the party's investment in technologies that will help us all do this and that will benefit all the candidates of the ticket. But I also want to remark that when the strategy is done well, of voter ID and GOTV, it works even better in special elections than in the course of a typical election. We've seen it in nearby Peabody last spring, where Leah Cole won an election, and in Western Mass in the fall, where Don Humison moved up to the state senate. I was a part of the voter ID and GOTV efforts in each of those races. And when you have dozens of people knocking on the doors of your voters leading into election day, it really makes a huge difference. They estimate that it's 3 to 5 percentage points if your get out the vote effort is better than your opponents. So I would urge each and every one of you to get involved in the local special elections that we have coming up April 1st. You have 2 tremendous opportunities, particularly with Monica Medeiros' campaign right here in Malden, and then the nearby campaign of Todd Taylor. The seat Monica is running for was recently held by Senator Richard Tutsay, and it can be won by a Republican again. Todd Taylor's running for a seat formerly held by Kathy Ann Reinstein. It's district number 74 on the list of most Republican districts to least Republican districts. So if you were to rank all the districts in the state, number 1 being the best and number 160 being the toughest for a Republican, he's in District 74, and Representative Shauna O'Connell, who some of you may know, won District 73 in 2010, beating an incumbent. So these special elections are winnable. So I urge all of you to please get involved, help these candidates. It will not only improve our representation in the legislature, but it will also set a great tone going into the fall elections. 2014 is already going to be a fantastic year for our party. If we do the right things and we do the hard work and we knock on the doors and write the checks, So I want to leave you with another quote and speak very briefly to one of the more well-known quotes by President Lincoln. "A house divided against itself cannot stand." We as a party have disagreements. We have Tea Party folks, moderates, Liberty Republicans, social conservatives. We are a party that's somewhat of a diverse lot. We disagree, but we should be unified. The other day, the Democratic State Committee unanimously voted to oppose our ballot question, decoupling the gas tax increases from the rate of inflation. Unanimously, they voted on that to oppose us. They want to keep that indexing. They really are united in their far-left ideology. And so while we have a diversity of opinion on issues, we need to be equally as united in defeating their candidates and in supporting ours. I don't care if you disagree with this one or that one on this thing or that thing. We have dozens of fantastic candidates running up and down the ticket from the top to the bottom. There is one out there who fits your ideological viewpoint, needs your help, knocking on doors, making phone calls, and fundraising. So find someone and get involved. My personal plea to all of you, it's less than 9 months until Election Day, is this. Find someone somewhere that you agree with, even if you have to go to another district. But find someone to work hard for. And if you pitch in and do just a little bit more, in 2014, we will have a fantastic year and we'll be tremendously successful. Thank you.
And thank you, Chanel. That was terrific. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, this is too important of a year for us to squabble over positions and things like that. And that's not to diminish the positions, because they're all important. Whether it's fiscal policy, social issues, they're all important. But we need to be respectful of each other. And we need to have a level of comity that promotes the great principles that our party has to bring forward. Self-reliance, fiscal discipline. We don't have to run away from those. We all agree on those. Let's bring those forward. What my mom used to say, she was a Depression-era woman, accentuate the positive, right? If we can just accentuate the positive, then we can all, the rising tide will lift all ships, and we will win. We will win. So, Chanel, thank you again. Up next is our State Committee man from Pepperell, Rick Green, and Rick's going to talk about Reflections of Reagan. Welcome, Rick.
First, I'd like to thank the Malden Republican City Committee for having me here this morning. Especially like to thank David and Barbara Bush, who reached out to me personally. I really do appreciate this fantastic opportunity. But I want to start off by apologizing. And I'm going to have to blame David here. He told me to take as much time as I want.
He was kidding.
So before, I'm going to take an extra 5 minutes, so you can keep track of that. But first, I also run a group called the Mass Fiscal Alliance. And on your table, you'll see these little scorecards. And I just want to point these out real quickly. For the first time, a group has actually gone out and collected all the votes that our state reps and state senators taken and put it online. And that's my group. And this is just a snapshot in time. But I wanted to give you an example. So Monica is running in a special election here. I believe it's the 5th Middlesex District.
Correct.
Potentially, on the other side, you have 2 candidates who are sitting state reps. The first one is Christopher Fallon. So it's right over here somewhere, if you're looking at it on the inside. And Christopher Fallon gets an 18%. That is not a good. So it's not a good score. As a whole, I think 27% is what the state representatives get, and that's a failing grade already. Another potential candidate, if you take it and you fold it in, Jason Lewis gets a 6%. Yeah, so 1/3 is as good as Christopher Fallon. So, and I heard some people tell me, well, Christopher Fallon is kind of a conservative. I said, well, he is 3 times as conservative as Jason Lewis, but I don't know if I'd put him in Monica's camp. I don't think he's anywhere close. But the final thing I'll leave you with is, when you go online, you can not only see the scores, but you can actually see the votes we scored. And some people, they tried to hit us right out of the box as, it's just a conservative, it's a Republican hit group. But, just go look at some of the votes. Putting a bill online for a week before you vote for it. Making subcommittee and committee votes public. Right now, they vote in committee, and it's not even recorded how they voted. Just a number. Okay, so, and over half of the votes that we scored are votes like this. These are literally 90% votes where every citizen in the Commonwealth would look at this and say, that's insane. You know, that's undemocratic. So again, thanks for the little extra time, David, and if everyone could just take a look at this, and there's plenty of copies, take one to go. So when I was asked to speak this morning on reflections on Reagan, I gladly accepted the opportunity. I thought it was especially fitting here in Malden that you recognize not only Abraham Lincoln, who was the first Republican president to carry the state of Massachusetts, but also Ronald Reagan, who was the last Republican president who actually carried the state of Massachusetts. So it has been almost 30 years since he was able to carry our great state in a presidential election. And I thought to myself, why was Ronald Reagan so successful here? I mean, here is a man who didn't waver in his support of conservative principles. And then, after his success, what happened to the so-called Reagan Democrats? These questions, I think, are very important for our party today. I think they hold the answer to how we change our own electoral fortunes as we move forward in Senate races, as well as governor, and hopefully Secretary of State, David. First and foremost, Ronald Reagan never ran away from Republican principles. His ideology was not poll-driven. So now I have to use a baseball analogy because I'm a huge Red Sox fan. But when I think of Ronald Reagan, he was the big poppy of Republican politics. Every time he stepped to the microphone, it was like when David Ortiz steps into the batter's box. All right? And if David steps in there, you know he's going to take that big, beautiful swing of his. With Ronald Reagan, not every speech was a home run, to be sure. But every time he was about to speak, you knew there was the possibility that he could say something great. One of my favorites, I think it's in your program today, when he stood at the Berlin Wall, and, you know, to cut it down short, Mr. Gorbachev, he said, "Tear down this wall." As a young man, still in high school at the time, I remember hearing it on my car radio. It was summer, just before the school year was about to get out. And I have to tell you, it was the political equivalent of a walk-off home run in the bottom of the 9th inning. Okay? Seriously, there was something, you felt it when they played his voice on the radio. You know, not on TV, not seeing, but just hearing it on the radio. Tear down this wall. In that moment, he took the greatness of America, you know, our liberty and our values, and he turned that into the weapon that it was impossible for the Soviet Union to ever defeat. He reached down into the core and the essence of who we all are as people, and there was nothing they could do about it. Very simply, he always claimed the moral high ground, and he made no excuses for doing so as a conservative. The same was also true with economic issues. In this election cycle, the left is going to drone on and on about income equality. From the president on down, they've already set this up as their wedge issue. In the forefront will be an argument over the minimum wage. It's not only is it a wedge issue, they're going to say it's a miracle cure. It's going to lift people out of poverty. I can just imagine what the Gipper would say if he were here in Malden this morning, with its working class roots and its growing population of minority voters. I suspect he would point out the obvious. Businesses who don't hire unemployed workers at $8 are not going to hire them at $11. But more importantly, he would point out that for the state to ask them to do so is immoral. They have no right. There's no standing in our Constitution for the state to make businesses and citizens do something like this. Again, the moral high ground. We as conservatives have it. We can't be afraid to seize it and then communicate it to the voters. Ronald Reagan was also an unabashed champion of small government. We can learn from Reagan and his ability to successfully articulate the conservative message. Today, the Republican Party has allowed the Democrats to turn our advocacy for smaller government and individual liberty into a political liability. Imagine that. It's unbelievable. They label us, and I might add quite effectively from a political standpoint, as the party of no. Where have we gone astray? Our ideals are the same as Reagan's, and he was so effective, yet now today we have such a hard time. The answer, I believe, like most things with Reagan, is really actually quite simple. What Reagan understood, and what we need to communicate today, is not that smaller government is more effective, but that effective government, through its very success, inevitably becomes smaller. Let's take, for example, the DTA, the Department of Transitional Assistance, here in the state of Massachusetts. The Democrats measure commitment to the ideal of helping our fellow citizens down on their luck in terms of dollars. The more you spend, obviously, the more you care. The more you spend, the better. Spend, spend, spend. Naturally, it follows if you take their logic, their warped logic, I might add. If you want to cut a program, then you are attacking the people who are getting these dollars. You're attacking the poor, mean, evil Republicans, the party of no. But imagine for a moment if we actually measured not dollars spent, but actual numbers of citizens assisted in transitioning to productive jobs and healthy lives. It is called the Department of Transitional Assistance, after all. The math is irrefutable. If DTA were actually to become successful in transitioning our citizens, there would be fewer people to help. Their budget would naturally shrink. Effective government, by its very nature, is smaller government. Ronald Reagan understood this, and he was able to communicate it, and it was why he was so effective. So these two things, conservatism, but preached from a moral high ground, and championing not only smaller, but more effective government, were two of the things, as I reflected on Ronald Reagan's presidency, that made him great. But finally, there's one more thing about Ronald Reagan, the man, that I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up. And that was his sense of humor. As Republicans, I think perhaps we have lost the ability to laugh at ourselves. We're pretty funny. You can laugh at that. That was supposed to be. Maybe I'm not funny, but we're very funny. At the height of the Cold War, with thousands of nuclear weapons pointed at our cities, the pressure on Reagan must have been overwhelming. And yet he never missed a chance to poke fun at the opposition or at himself. So I spent the better part of this weekend, as I was thinking about what I would say today, contemplating how Ronald Reagan might respond if I was able to ask him directly, Mr. President, how did you maintain your sense of humor despite the gravity of your position? As I thought about it, I could hear him in my mind. Well, Rick, I didn't mean to be funny, but the Democrats just kept providing me with such good material. I couldn't help it. It's been my honor and pleasure to speak to you this morning. Thank you all very much.
Rick, that was a terrific job. And let me just say how humble of a man Rick Green is. I mean, this is a guy who started in his garage and built something into a multi-million-dollar corporation. You'd never know it. And having worked in the legislature, having been a campaign manager, I'm going to tell you right now that him, his team with Michael, Paul Creaney, and the rest of the Mass Fiscal Alliance, this is the most valuable tool that we've ever had. And this will lead to wins in November. Thank you very much for doing that. I appreciate it. Now, many of you may remember that there was a chairman's race last year, and I got involved, and Rick was involved as well, and ultimately Chairman Hughes, who ended up winning. Now, Rick could have taken his ball and gone home, and all of the things we had talked about, and nobody would have blamed him. He has done everything that he said he was going to do, and more. Matter of fact, he under-promised and over-performed, so thank you again for doing that. And Chanel, thank you too for coming. It is such a big deal that Chanel Prunier is our National Committee woman, and she's doing a fantastic job. I think nothing against the National Committee women that were there before, but perhaps they were a little bit more hands-off. That is not Chanel. She has been going to things round the clock. And these two individuals here are going to lead directly to wins in November. So that, we all owe you a round of applause and a thank you. Now, we do have several candidates here. We want to make sure we give everybody an opportunity. I think we're going to start with Mark Fisher. Mark's a candidate for governor. Welcome, Mark. And then we'll go to Monica, and then I think Alex has something to say, and we're certainly going to let Les Gossel's folks have time as well. If you are a candidate and you would like to speak, if you could just let me know, give me the heads up. But right now, we'd like to welcome to Malden, Mark Fisher. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Malden Mrcc, and thank you, David. David said the same thing to me that he said to Rick Green, that is, take as much time as you'd like. What a horrible thing to say, or a dangerous thing to say to a candidate. I had a few comments prepared today, especially on the presidents, but I will say a little bit about myself now that David's given me the opportunity. Obviously, my name is Mark Fisher, and I'm running for the Republican nomination for governor. I was born in Westfield, Mass., and my dad went to trade school, and my mom and most of her sisters, family of 13, only went to elementary school. That's sort of how things were back in the Depression. And so when I graduated from high school, I did not go to college. I worked at O'Connell Envelope Company, joined the union there, rolled up my sleeves, and learned the value of a buck. And while working there, I met a lot of good people, a lot of good blue-collar people who taught me that hard work and determination could more than make up for the lack of a college education. And so as I worked there, I could see how things were working for them. They were paying their bills and raising their families and affording a rent or a mortgage and saving for the future. And so I had to decide, was that a path that I wanted to follow down? It was clearly working for them, or did I want to do something different? And I think this is part of the great joy in life, that we find out what we like to do and what we do best, then we step forward and test the waters. And we don't always get it right the first time, or most often we don't get it right the first time or the second time, but we keep trying. This is part of the pursuit of happiness, not government-imposed happiness. So I stepped forward and I tested the waters. I went to college, a 2-year community college. And when I graduated, I worked for a while before I transferred to WPI in Worcester, where I eventually earned graduate degrees in engineering and business. Then I worked as an engineer in Massachusetts. And working anywhere in Massachusetts is tough. I've been out of work and unemployed 5 times, and 4 of my previous employers, 4 in a row actually, closed their doors and moved out of state. The last time I was unemployed, 4.5 years ago, I found a business for sale, took out a loan on my house, my mom's house, and bought that business, and it's done so well that it's given me the opportunity to do more than just vote and complain, which has been my political involvement up to now. I'm a small business owner. I am not a businessman. And what I mean by that is this. When I go to work every day, I'm not at all dressed like this. I put on my steel-toe work boots and my jeans and my sweatshirt because we make real things out of steel, stainless steel, and aluminum. I'm also a Tea Party member. And I believe that the Tea Party and the Republican Party are not mutually exclusive. I think to win, we have to work together. As I said earlier, I'm a political outsider. I've never run for office, never worked for the government. The issues that face us during this election cycle are many, but I think they stem from one main issue, and that's this. Do we fight for smaller government and individual freedom, or do we allow big government to get bigger and bigger, take over more and more of our lives, and erode personal freedom? And this idea of small government and individual freedom is a fundamental, foundational pillar of the Republican Party. And I want to make this especially clear. I'm a Republican. I'm a proud Republican. I'm not afraid to be called a Republican. I don't shrink from being associated with the Republican Party. I am a full platform, no excuses necessary, loyal and proud Republican. That being said, we all know that the Democrats own this state. They own it. But what does that mean? That means they own all the problems. They can't blame the Republicans for anything. What a great time to be a conservative Republican, even in a blue state like Massachusetts. What a great time. We just need to make them own up to the problems they've created. Let's look just at 3 of the problems. There are many. Let's look at just 3. EBT cards. Even a Democrat auditor has shown us that there's $400 million in abuse and fraud in that program. And that we give EBT cards to 1,000 dead people. This is a Democrat problem. Let's look at food stamps. When Governor Deval Patrick took office, according to the USDA, there were fewer than 450,000 recipients of food stamps in Massachusetts. If Democrat policies were working so well, if people were being transitioned from unemployment to work, that number should be going down. But it's not. It's going up. And it hasn't gone up by 5 or 10%. It's doubled. There are 900,000 people on food stamps in Massachusetts. We didn't hear about that in the State of the State address, did we? This is a Democrat problem. Last of the 3 problems. Illegal immigration. There are over 200,000 illegal immigrants here. I have 2 employees at my business. They're not U.S. citizens. They have their green cards, and one fellow is going for citizenship classes. They've stood in line. They've played fair. They've waited their turn. If you ever wanted to see a group of people more against illegal immigration, it's the legal immigrants that have come here. We spend, all of us, it's our money, $1.8 billion each year on illegal immigrants here in Massachusetts. And why did they come to Massachusetts? Massachusetts has been designated by the Democrats as a sanctuary state. Illegal immigrants are illegal. They're not dumb. They come to Massachusetts because they can get more benefits here in Massachusetts than from Connecticut, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire, or Maine combined. So what's the solution? It's not to create another big government bureaucracy, hire more government employees, hunt down the illegals, arrest them, put them in jail, and hope that the federal government would deport them. That's not the solution. The solution is a no-cost one, it's an easy one, it's a common sense one. We turn off the benefits. Illegal immigrants are only illegal, they're not dumb. They'll go to the next big blue state, New York, California. Easy solution. In the words of Ronald Reagan, government does not solve problems, it subsidizes them. And they're not subsidized any more than here in Massachusetts. In addition to these 3 problems, there are 3 broken promises that I want to talk about. Not that there's only 3, but three today. If you go to my website, which I hope you do, one of the things you'll see me railing against are the tolls on the turnpike. Why? If we can't trust our government, we can't talk about anything else. And so when we were promised back in the 50s, when the turnpike was built, when it was paid for, the tolls would come down. The turnpike has been paid for over 30 years. As you travel down the turnpike and see all the billboards, all the rest stops, all the gas stations, all the food eateries, all the rent that's generated from those establishments more than pays for the yearly maintenance on the turnpike and creates $20 million in surplus each and every year. The turnpike is paid for. It's time for the tolls and the toll booths to come down along with them. The second broken promise. When the income tax was raised up about 5%, we were told it would be temporary. When that promise was broken, we all got together on a ballot initiative and voted to have it returned to where we were promised it would be. And then our legislature just ignored us. They ignored the will of the people. And so as governor, the income tax gets rolled back to 5%. Not because it's my idea. It's a promise that government made to us, and it's time to keep it. And then lastly, the sales tax. When Governor Deval Patrick increased it from 5 to 6.25%, he said it was an emergency measure because revenues were down. Revenues must be up because he's found $9 million to redo his office. So as governor, the sales tax gets rolled back to 5%, where we were promised it would be, because government cannot lie to its citizens. We lost the Battle of Bunker Hill. Why? Only because we ran out of ammunition. We've lost political battles recently, not for lack of ammunition. We have all these problems, all these scandals, all these failures. They all belong to the Democrats. We just need candidates with the willingness, reserve, and the backbone to use it, to stand up to the powers that be, make them own these problems. How can't we win? That's why I'm running for governor. A couple words about our presidents here. In the words of Lincoln, some of his great wisdom, we can't please all the people all the time. Sounds like common sense. And yet, in the Republican Party today, there are some who say, no, we should try to please all the people all the time. You've heard it before. It's called the Big Tent Theory. I don't subscribe to it. I subscribe to the full platform theory. We appeal to everyone. We appeal to everyone, knowing full well that we can't please everyone. We have the right issues. We have the high moral ground. We appeal to everyone. Our message will resonate in their minds and in their hearts. The revolution wasn't favored by 100% of the people. When we had the British evacuate Boston, 1,000 loyalists went along with them. We can't please all the people all the time. Let's stand on a full platform, as Reagan did. Second piece of wisdom, again from Lincoln. As Chanel had said, a house divided cannot stand. A party divided cannot win. One of the big reasons I'm running, I'm a Tea Party member. We need them to win. The Liberty Caucus people, the Ron Paul people, we need them to win. The Massachusetts Republican Assembly, I'm a member. We need them to win. The Second Amendment people, we need them to win. Pro-life and pro-family groups, we need them to win. We need to come together as one to win. We can't distance ourselves from them. We can't push them off or hold them at bay. We need them to win. But there is another strategy in the Republican Party. And that is, we take a middle-of-the-road approach, a moderate approach, a safe approach. I don't think we have to look any further back than Scott Brown. He won with the Tea Party. He lost without them. He moved to the middle of the road, trying to establish more votes. Whenever I've been in the middle of the road, I don't find it a safe position. I find it a dangerous one. There are two things you'll find there: losing candidates and roadkill. Neither one appeal to me. If you find yourself there, the solution is not to move to the left. It's to go to the right. It's where you find me. It's where I drive. It's where I live. It's where we win elections. It's where we win elections. Thank you for your time. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Mark. Well done. Appreciate that. Yeah, I couldn't agree more in terms of we have to rally together. One of the things we were so encouraged by was this past weekend. Many of you were in Marlboro for the great event we had, Mass GOP training. And I got to tell you, I've been to those over the years. I think I went to my first one in like 1994 or something, so I've been to plenty of them. And I really believe that that was the most well-attended and best-run event, because usually what ends up happening at those events, even if you do get a good crowd, you get some of the tinfoil hat types, and everybody here knows what I'm talking about. There were none of those there this time. You also get some of the, in the breakout sessions, you get some people raising their hands saying, well, what about 1982 and this and that, and people start fighting. There was none of that. Everybody was unified. It was a robust turnout. There was tons of talent in that room, and I really think that that's a great sign going forward. So we have candidates up and down the ticket who want to contend. Thank you, everybody who's running. So up next is one of our own here. We consider her one of our own. She was state committee woman for this district for a number of years. She just topped the ticket this past election over in Melrose for Alderwoman at Large, and she is a fantastic opportunity for us to pick up the state senate seat over in Melrose. Welcome, Monica.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to thank you, David, and the whole Malden Republican City Committee for having me here today and for having this event. I know a lot of work went through it. Thank you very much, Rick. I know was calling around and chasing all of us to make sure we'd be here and be on time. So we appreciate that. And I want to thank all of you for coming out an early morning this President's Day. My name is Monica Medeiros. I am a candidate in the upcoming special election on April 1st for state senator in the 5th Middlesex District. That is all of Malden, Melrose, Stoneham, Reading, Wakefield, and then 4 precincts in Winchester. So it's quite a big district, and the general election is going to be April 1st, primary March 4th. I am, as David mentioned, I was formerly the Republican State Committee woman for this district for 3 terms, for 12 years. So for quite a long time I represented Malden, and I am very glad I've been here for many of these breakfasts over the years, and glad to be back again today. As David also mentioned, for the past 6 years, I've been a ward alderman in Melrose for Ward 2, and then this past election, I ran for alderman at large, and I actually topped the ticket. So it's been a very busy year, and here I am running again. But this is, after all, the Lincoln-Reagan Day breakfast. So I have a quote from Ronald Reagan. He said, "To sit back and wait for somebody, some way, or someone to come and make things right is to go on feeding the crocodile, hoping that he eats you last. But eat you, he will." So that's a lot of the reasons why I'm actually running in this race. As I mentioned, I hadn't been planning on running for this seat at all. I had been very content in Melrose to run a good race, and do my work on the Board of Aldermen. But as the race shaped up and some of the candidates started to emerge, and no one seemed to be stepping up from our Republican Party, I found that no one was really talking about the issues that affect us most on a day-to-day basis. No one was talking about the waste and the inefficiency and the fraud that we're facing and we're seeing in the state government. No one was talking about how those tax dollars could be used better. The things that I saw as a member of the Board of Aldermen in Melrose are the services that we provided on a day-to-day basis. Our schools, our roads, our public safety, and the funds that we've been getting back from the state through local aid. Remember, those are our tax dollars that we all pay in. We were getting fewer of those back. And none of the candidates were talking about that. So I can tell you something. I wasn't going to sit back and let that crocodile eat me. So I'm doing something, and I'm out here running, and I need all of you to stop feeding that crocodile and help me. It's going to be a very short election cycle. You know, I have a lot of contacts throughout this district, but I need to get to know a lot more people, and I need for them to get to know me. So you guys are my allies here. You guys are the ones that know me best. I really need your help to help spread the word. Coming up, we have some events coming up. We have the campaign kickoff There's some invitations on the table. This coming Wednesday, the 19th, at 7 p.m. at Memorial Hall in Melrose. And we're also, I'm happy to say, we've got campaign office open. We've been very happy. You know, I've been around the Republican Party for a long time, and a lot of times I've seen not so much help from the state committee in terms of candidates and special elections. People keep saying to me, "Have you talked to the party yet?" And I look at them and I say, you know, I've been down that road and I've seen them not help people. And I've actually been very pleased and very surprised at the help that they've been showing. And together we have a victory office coming online very, very shortly, like within the week, up in Stoneham, right next to the library, 451 Main Street. So, you know, we're going to need help making phone calls. This is, Chanel did a very nice job of using Lincoln's campaign plan. Who needs to write one when you can just take that? And, you know, it's very much that kind of campaign where we need to target the vote. We need to sway the people who don't know me. You know, we're right on the ideas. And then we need to get everybody out to vote on April 1st, because it is going to be one of those, you know, another election. I mean, we hear between the series of special elections are kind of elections out. So it's very, very important that we get our people out to the polls on election day. So I really, I appreciate it, and definitely let's send that crocodile packing.
Great job, Monica, and you can see why she topped the ticket over in Melrose, and I'm sure we're going to bring home a win for you on April 1st. We really need everybody here to band together, right? So is Devin still here? Devin, where are you? Stand up. This is Devin Manchester. Devin is working for Mass Victory. So he's working for Monica, he's working for me, he's working for you, okay? This is your party in action. Never before have we been organized so early. Okay, so he's going to be helping to run, him and Lily Zarelli are going to be helping to run the office over in Stoneham that Monica mentioned. So we need to engage early and just keep it going, right? One of the things we need to think of is just close your eyes for a second and think of November 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Just block those off on your calendar, and the 4th. Just block those off on your calendar. Do whatever you have to do. Call into your boss, make plans with the sitter, whatever. We need you that last 96 hours in this November coming up to close the deal, because we have the best technology we've ever had, we have the best data we've ever had, but we need to make it happen. And we can pay for some of it, but we need other people to fill in the blanks, right? So, all right, moving forward here, we have Janice Wynn. Les had to leave, but Janice is going to come up and talk to you a little bit about Les's campaign for State Senate. Janice, come on up.
Thank you for the opportunity, but I'm going to defer to Mary Ann Flaherty.
Okay, Mary Ann, come on up.
Les's campaign director.
Okay,
Thank
come
you.
on up, Mary Ann.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. Les had to leave early. My name is Mary Ann Flaherty. I am Les's political director. Les is running for state senate out of the Norfolk Plymouth district. He's running now against an entrenched Democrat, John Keenan. I checked his scorecard. Last time I checked it was about 6 months ago. He was at 6%. I think we have them running scared because he's way up to 9 now. He's in a city where his brother is the chief of police, his brother-in-law is the mayor. We have an uphill battle, but with Les's name recognition, I think we can do it. You heard Les speak. He said he's very passionate, and I think it came through. He got involved when his daughter was murdered about in 1999. It took him 13 years to get the law passed, Melissa's law, and he got it passed. So he knows how to work the State House, and he's a great candidate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Appreciate that. Les is somebody who we really have a great opportunity, and this is a man who already has some name recognition because of all the great work he's done. And I just have tremendous amounts of respect for him to be able to rally from such an awful situation Let's not let that bad situation go unanswered, right? And this is a chance to answer it with something positive. Let's take a positive out of that awful situation. So thank you for coming today, and let's do what we can to support Les Gossel. Up next, we're going to have Alex Veras. Alex, welcome.
Just a little bit because Monica had it before me. I'd like to say I'm a proud member of the Christopher Pinto Robino clan. Proud member. Folks, I'm here to talk about the changing face of this state. It's a message we do need to hear. You know, I'm a proud Republican, have been since this man right here inspired me. I'm the son of immigrants. And I saw the hazards of what the Carter administration was, and this guy spoke hope. Spoke of the things, the values that I was raised in, the values all of us were raised here. Because value knows no demarcation lines of race and ethnicity. And Chanel, you said about our wagons, well, we gotta get on our wagons. We gotta get those wagons to go into Dorchester, Mattapan, Lawrence, Springfield, Lynn. If you look at I work for the government, if you look at the last census, 48% of the growth in this state was in the cities. 46 of that, people who are me, Hispanic. Every month, 50,000 Hispanic kids turn 18. Who's talking to them? What is their influence? What party are they going to vote for? 50,000. You know, the NYPD, of which I have 12 cousins, none below the rank of sergeant, all sergeants and lieutenants, proud of that fact, is about 45,000 at full staff. Folks, we seriously, our message has to go into the cities. The values that I was raised in, they're there. They are there. But when we have consultants say there's no need to go into Lawrence, and then on election night when we get creamed, who's to blame? Folks, I'm gonna, a little something here from special election. And I look at this, and maybe for some of you the first time you hear Spanish up front. This was an ad in the paper 2 weeks before. And it says Latino, because Spanish is one of the many languages I speak. Este es tu partido. Hispanic, this is your party. Mientras mejor te informas, más clara es esa elección. The more you inform yourself, the more you will know that Ed Markey is your choice. And then I look at the bottom. It wasn't paid by the Markey campaign. Clearly here in English, paid for by the Massachusetts Democratic State Committee. Folks, they know the future. They know where it is. They know where it lies. You know, when you look at the first Hispanics that were elected to Congress, they were Republicans. I know some people are like, wow, that's amazing how you say that. Vitirano La Carasolo, the first Hispanic woman, friend of mine, Elena Rosa Littanen, the first Hispanic Attorney General, the first Hispanic Surgeon General, were all Republicans, many of the first. But we sit back and we listen to the shrill nativists and stuff. And Mark, you are right, because a Hispanic that came here legally, those are the ones we need to talk to, are the ones that will tell us how to properly do immigration reform. Lenny Mira, my good friend who's a state rep, will tell you how his workers who are Hispanic are so proud of the fact that they're here and they're here legally, but don't like paying taxes for people that don't want to push that wagon. Folks, we lose people. We're losing the grandchildren of the Reagan Democrats. And I'll tell you how. Those of you who are my friends on Facebook see my post of my beautiful niece. You know, Jeff's laughing, Jeff's smiling. My niece is she's my first niece after 8 nephews. She'll be 18 in a few years. But I won't have any control over what her political beliefs would be because her parents are, my kid's sister and her father are liberal Democrats. There are other similar children. We need to be in the cities. You know, I could show you on YouTube ads done by Elizabeth Warren in Spanish. But yet, where are our ads? Where are us to defend our views? Because the views that I believe are the views that you have, that this man has. And we paint people in a corner, then we won an election night, why do we lose? Because we don't go in there and talk to them. We have to, folks. Folks, I'm going to show you something here. I have many friends who are Democrats. This was a playbook done shortly after the 2010 election. The swiftness that they organized this. Democratic Campaign Institute, February 26, 2010. In this, they clearly state we have to go to the Hispanic community. They know the future. Maybe some of you disagree, but unless your last name is running there, you have no right. Folks, I'm a proud Republican. We have to go to Boston, to Dorchester, to Worcester, to the Indian Ridge neighborhood of Springfield. When we go and we nominate a Hispanic, we have to get a person that was born and raised in this state. We have to ask the question, ¿Quién tú eres? Who are you? We have to ask the question, who do you know in the community that we can talk to? And exactly, Sheila, ¿Qué tú has hecho? What have you done for your community? Outreach, folks, begins in urban America, in urban Massachusetts. It doesn't begin in Cohasset. Plain and simple. Doesn't begin in Cohasset. Folks, I'll give you two examples here. Is that my friend Sheila called the first elected Hispanic in New Hampshire, Carlos Gonzalez, a Dominican like myself, and he's a Republican. And they brought him to Lawrence to campaign. He was like, from what I read, he was like, what, a rock star? Everybody knew him. But yet, the candidates in this party don't call him. Come down, help us. We had an opportunity in 2010 where the governor, the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, 44 out of 49 mayors in Puerto Rico were Republican. But they never got a call. Guess where the Puerto Rican leadership, guess where the kids are educated? Guess what colleges they go to, or what prep schools? They come here. Wasn't a hassle to say, hey, I'll put you up in my house and, come campaign for me. Folks, the advantages, they're there. My friend and David's friend, Dean Cavaretta, and I went on this note. I took him around Lawrence. I wanted to show him. Everywhere, bumper stickers, Latinos con Markey. But we would talk to people. We met a young girl who was a member of the National Guard, deployed, single mom, working 2 jobs and going to college. Every single issue, she agreed with us. And we asked her, why did you vote for Obama? Because nobody asked me to vote Republican. Nobody asked me. On to that note, we can win, but we gotta go to the cities. We can't go to the burbs. We gotta go uptown into Chinatown. Thank you for your time.
Alex, thank you so much, and you're preaching to the choir with me, you know that, but one of the main planks of the New Mass Playbook is to do that, and I think we've made an impression, right? You've made an impression even here this morning, talking to our leaders that are here. So I've been assured by Mass GOP, and I certainly as a statewide candidate, and I would hope Mark and all the other candidates here would take notice and realize that the cities have a lot of these votes. And look, I have no illusion that we're going to win the city of Boston or Cambridge or Somerville. Let's just not get killed there 80-20. Right? 70-30. Let's make it 55-45. And you don't have to win all of the other communities so highly, right? Last time around, Baker won more communities. There's 352 communities in the Commonwealth. Baker won, I think it was 210 of them or something like that. So he won the majority. You can't ignore the city, so. That's right. So far down. To make up for it. So we're on the same page.
8% of all votes in the state are cast in the city of Boston.
And I will assure you, all my stuff will be in Spanish as well. All my literature will be in Spanish. So, anyone else? I know we have Michael here. Michael wants to speak on behalf of Todd Taylor, who, to Michael's credit and to Barbara Bush's credit, they went out and helped recruit. He's running for state representative in this seat that's being vacated by Kathy Reinstein. So, Michael.
Thank you very much to David for allowing me the opportunity to speak. Thank you all for being here this morning. As David said, my name is Michael Cowett. I am a lot of things at this point. Work for RIC, the Massachusetts Fiscal Alliance. I am a member of the Republican State Committee from the Middlesex and Suffolk District, which includes Cambridge, Everett, about half of Cambridge, Everett, Chelsea, the Charlestown neighborhood of Boston, and parts of Allston around Harvard Business School. One of the things David just said prompted a quick thought, which is that if we could get to 80-20 in Cambridge, I'd consider that a great victory. But anyway, what I'm here today to talk about is I'm working as the campaign manager for Todd Taylor for state representative in the 16th Suffolk District. 16th Suffolk includes about half of Revere, mostly in the western portion of Revere along Route 107, and then up in Point of Pines and along Revere Beach. It includes 2 precincts in Saugus, and it includes 4 precincts that I represent on the state committee in the Prattville neighborhood of Chelsea. As Chanel pointed out, this is district number 74 out of 160. In 2010, Scott Brown won that district by 10 points, even as he was winning statewide by 5. But we haven't run a candidate. We haven't run a candidate for this seat since 1990. And we've only run that candidate since 1978. That's about, give or take, 16 election cycles. Kathy Ann Reinstein in her entire political career did not face an opponent. Not a Democrat, not an independent, not a Republican. Never. In 8 terms in the House. That's why the Taylor campaign, we're trying to fix this. Todd is a newcomer to politics. He's a business owner. He's lived in Chelsea for about 15 years. He's running on 2 major issues. We need economic growth. We need a change to the economic climate. We need burdens to be removed from small business owners like him, like Rick, like so many others in this room who are trying to create jobs. And we need improvements to our education system. Todd's daughter Alana was fortunate enough to win a place at a charter school in East Boston. This is a charter school, the Brooks School, that's also got campuses in some other neighborhoods of Boston. I know they've got one in Mattapan. But they can't expand. And despite the fact that 75% of their students hear another language besides English spoken at home, they have some of the highest MCAS scores in the state. But they can't expand because the Democrats and their allies in the teachers' unions, or better yet, the teachers' unions and their allies in the legislature, prevent charter schools like the Brooks School from expanding to really serve the kids who need it. And that's got to stop. It's not about the kids for the teachers' unions. One of the union presidents in the 60s once said famously that when students start paying union dues, he'll start representing students. It's got to be about the students. Like with Monica's race, the special election is on April 1st. We're fortunate enough, we don't have a primary. 6 weeks from tomorrow, folks, that's when these races are happening. We desperately need your time, your money, any other support that you're able to give us. We've got the address for the website, designed by Brad Marston, who's in attendance this morning, very nicely, and on quite a tight schedule. And that's on the push card. All of those are on your table. So I'd very much appreciate the support for Todd's campaign. I think this is an opportunity. I calculated when I started looking at the numbers in this race, this is a Suffolk County district, even though it goes a little bit into southern Essex County. I believe we have lost something on the order of 399 out of the last 400 races for state representative in Suffolk County. And I don't know how many of you are aware of Althea Garrison, but I doubt she's any of our ideas of a Republican. We've got to start winning these seats. There's 160 seats in the legislature. If we concede 20 of them off the bat, all of a sudden we've got to win a 57% majority to have any ability to control business in the legislature, and that's got to stop. I'll close with one point, and that's to Alex's point. This isn't quite so heavily minority a district as many others in this area. But it's still a lot more, there's still a lot more folks from communities of color than there are in many districts Republicans hold. Last weekend, the weekend before that, Todd and I have been in Chelsea Housing Authority projects, knocking on doors, speaking to folks, some in English, some in Spanish. Now, I don't speak what, you know, the foreign languages I know nobody's spoken about 2,000 years. But, you know, Todd speaks a little Spanish. I can at least repeat the Spanish he tells me to say. And we're going to people who have not heard our message in any fair way. It's not years. It's not decades. It's beyond that. It's ever. We've never been to these places. And for so many of them, it's about showing up. It's about saying, hi, I'm running. Will you vote for me? It's not hard. It doesn't mean necessarily that we're going to win Chelsea or we're going to win Cambridge. We're certainly not going to do that. But it's got to stop being as bad as it is. That's why Todd's running. That's why I'm taking the time to help him. And I hope you'll join us. Thank you very much.
Pleased to have Jeff Simone, who has a nice announcement. I guess he's got some robust programming and events going on. Jeff?
Very briefly. March 22nd is our convention. I hope you're all attending. Afterwards, the Massachusetts Young Republicans will be having a party to which you are all invited. I hope to see you there. This will just be a social gathering. I'm executive director of the Young Republicans, so if you know anybody under 40 who is a Republican and would like to join our organization, please let them know about us. Please attend the evening of March 22nd. We are going to try and time it so it begins right after the convention ends. You'll just have to walk outside, go down the street, and relax, have a beer, coffee, soda, whatever you want. We'll be selling tickets, so I really hope to see you all there. And I'd like to personally thank Mr. Rick Boudreau, and if you could give him and David a nice round of applause, and Louise as well. And everybody on the Malden Republican City Committee. This is one of my favorite events every year, and I really appreciate all the effort and work they put into it. And we are going to win this year. We're going to win big, and we're going to go into those cities. And I know how critical it was when I had my website put in Spanish. I think I was Brad Marston again. One of the first major candidates to do that. We have to start showing up. We have to start being there, and we're going to do it this year. We're not going to do it perfect. We're not going to, you know, it's little steps, it's baby steps, but we will get there, and we're going to start winning. Thank you so much. March 22nd, right after it, Mass Young Republicans. Thanks.
What's that?
To be determined location. We will let you know.
Thank you, Jeff. Is there anybody else? Any other campaigns? Any other candidates? Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. All of the organizers, Barbara, Rick, Louise, and everybody else. We're going to be doing interviews afterward with Francis so we can put it on social media and get it around, and everybody can use it for their campaign. So please take a couple of minutes over here to the side, and certainly come up here and take pictures with our set. Thank you again for coming. We really appreciate it, and let's win in November. Thank you.
April.